You won't believe what this HOA Karen tried to pull on me and my family. I'm Steve Wilson Donovan, retired dental surgeon, just turned 65. My wife Linda, retired commercial pilot at 60. We're living our best retirement life in the Colorado mountains. Picture this. I'm relaxing in my family's century-old natural hot spring with Linda after 30 years of looking into people's mouths and her dealing with turbulence at 30,000 feet. This woman shows up with bolt cutters and a crowbar. This hot spring is community property now. You're being selfish keeping it to yourselves. Excuse me, lady? I'm talking about Susan Martinez, real estate lawyer from Denver. Mid-50s trying to look 30. Thought she could waltz into Steamboat Springs, Colorado and steal my great-grandmother's natural hot spring? My 3 adult kids watched this unfold from our deck. Michael, 32. Sarah, 28. Jake, 24. All looking at this woman like she'd lost her absolute mind. Even her 2 grandchildren asking, "Grandpa Steve, why is the mean lady yelling?" Spoiler alert. She's about to face federal criminal charges. But first, she's going to completely lose her sanity on camera while trying to steal water that's been bubbling on our land since before her great-grandparents were born. Linda's flown through hurricanes. She's handled drunk passengers and emergency landings, but nothing prepared her for this level of entitlement. This story gets absolutely wild, people. Buckle up. Let me paint you the picture of how we got here. 6 months ago, Linda and I are burnt out. Me, 30 years as a dental surgeon in Denver. Linda, 25 years flying commercial jets for United. We're both ready to retire early and actually enjoy life. My grandmother Rose owned this incredible mountain cabin since the 1920s. We're talking 40 pristine acres at 7,800 feet elevation. Views of the Yampa Valley that'll make you cry. Aspen groves that turn pure gold in September. Wildlife everywhere. Elk, deer, the occasional black bear just living their best life. But here's the absolute kicker that makes this property legendary. Natural hot spring in the backyard. Fed by underground geothermal activity. Maintains 104 degrees year-round. Even when it's -20 outside, this spring is like nature's own private spa. The water bubbles up from deep underground through limestone formations, creates these beautiful terraced pools surrounded by natural rock formations, steam rising through pine trees. It's like something out of a fairy tale. When Grandma Rose passed at 93, sharp as a tack until the very end, she left everything to me. In her attic, I found treasure troves of family history. Boxes and boxes of photographs spanning 4 generations. Black and white pictures from the 1920s showing my great-grandparents soaking in that exact same spring. Pictures of my parents' wedding party celebrating there in the 1978. Linda's in some of those photos from when we were dating. Our own kids growing up there. Michael learning to swim in the shallow end. Sarah having slumber parties with girlfriends. Jake bringing his college graduation party there just 3 years ago. Even pictures from last Christmas. Our 2 grandchildren, ages 5 and 7, splashing around in the same water where their great-great-grandparents relaxed a century ago. Original land patent from 1923? Check. Mineral rights documentation? Check. Geological surveys from the Colorado School of Mines? Confirming the spring's natural origin? Check and double-check. This wasn't just property, this was 4 generations of family legacy. So, Linda and I made the decision. Sell the house in Denver, move to the mountains full-time, turn Grandma's cabin into our retirement paradise. Our 3 kids thought we'd lost our minds. Michael, our investment banker son, "Dad, you're moving to the middle of nowhere? What about restaurants, shopping, civilization?" Sarah, our teacher daughter, "Mom, what about high-speed internet? How will you stream Netflix?" Jake, fresh out of Colorado State, "This is awesome. Can I still bring college friends to the hot spring for parties?" Linda and I just looked at each other and laughed. After decades of city stress, middle of nowhere sounded like heaven. 6 months of renovations. Linda handled all the electrical work. Turns out flight training includes serious electrical systems knowledge. I tackled the plumbing. 30 years of precise handwork came in handy.
New solar panel system that could power a small town, stone pathway down to the spring that Linda designed like airport runway lighting, upgraded the cabin with modern insulation while keeping all the rustic charm Grandma Rose loved. The whole family helped. Michael handled the business permits and insurance updates. Sarah researched historical preservation guidelines. Jake provided young man muscle for heavy lifting. Our first official family gathering at the completed renovation was magical. All 3 kids brought their significant others, our 2 grandchildren running around like they owned the place, 3 generations soaking in the same spring where my great-grandparents found peace during the Great Depression. Linda taking sunset photographs from the hot spring, finally relaxed after decades of dealing with flight delays and difficult passengers. Me reading actual books instead of dental journals, my hands finally steady without holding dental instruments 8 hours a day. Those first 3 months were absolute retirement paradise. Morning coffee on the deck, watching elk graze in our meadow, afternoon hikes on trails that hadn't changed since my grandfather walked them, evening soaks under stars so bright they hurt your eyes, the silence broken only by bubbling spring water, wind through aspen leaves, and the occasional call of a great horned owl. I thought we'd found our forever home, our retirement dream, our family sanctuary. Boy, was I wrong. Plot twist. Hell was about to knock on our door wearing expensive hiking boots and carrying legal documents. October 15th. Date burned into my memory forever. Linda's doing her morning Pilates routine on our deck. I'm checking email and enjoying the kind of slow morning that retirement was supposed to be about. Walk to our mailbox, half-mile driveway, but the exercise is good for us. Sitting there like a ticking bomb, official-looking envelope. Pine Ridge Mountain Estates Homeowners Association. Honey, I called to Linda, ever heard of Pine Ridge Mountain Estates? She stops mid-downward dog. Never in my life. Open the envelope. My blood pressure spikes higher than it ever did during complicated root canals. Dear property owner, your property has been incorporated into the newly formed Pine Ridge Mountain Estates Homeowners Association. Mandatory attendance required at organizing meeting this Saturday, 2 p.m. What the actual... Linda reads over my shoulder. 25 years of dealing with airline bureaucracy, and she's instantly suspicious. Steve, this smells like fraud. You can't just force people into HOAs without consent. That's when I noticed increased construction activity down the mountain. Past month, I'd seen trucks and heavy equipment. Figured someone was building another cabin. Turns out, luxury development. Some hotshot Denver company bought up several parcels and started building what they called exclusive mountain retreats. $1-million vacation homes for wealthy professionals who wanted to experience authentic mountain living on weekends. The development name? Pine Ridge Mountain Estates. Somehow, these developers decided that existing properties in a 2-mile radius should be included in their fancy HOA. The woman orchestrating this scheme? Susan Martinez, real estate lawyer from Denver. Mid-50s trying to look 30. Thought she could waltz into Steamboat Springs, Colorado and steal my great-grandmother's natural hot spring? She presented herself as the picture of professional competence. Probably mid-50s, but trying hard to look younger. Expensive Patagonia gear that looked like it had never seen actual outdoor use. Perfect makeup and manicured nails like she was heading to a board meeting, not a mountain cabin. Leather portfolio she kept referencing like it contained the secrets of the universe. Good afternoon. I'm Susan Martinez, your new HOA president, she announces with a smile that doesn't even try to reach her eyes. I wanted to personally welcome you to Pine Ridge Mountain Estates and discuss some exciting opportunities for our community. Linda and I exchanged glances. Pilot training taught her to read people instantly. Dental practice taught me to spot trouble. This woman was both. I explained politely that we'd never agreed to join any HOA, that my family had owned this property since the Coolidge administration, that we'd been living here peacefully for decades without any need for community management. Susan's mask slips immediately. "Well, Mr. Donovan, that's really not relevant anymore," she says, opening that leather portfolio like she's about to serve a legal summons. "The HOA has been legally established with proper county registration. All properties within our designated boundaries are required to participate. It's not optional." Linda steps forward. 25 years of handling difficult passengers kicking in. Required by whom, exactly? We never signed anything, never agreed to anything, never even heard of Pine Ridge Estates until yesterday. Susan's smile turns into something predatory. "Mrs. Donovan, I understand change can be challenging for long-term residents, but we have some wonderful community improvement plans that will benefit everyone, especially regarding shared recreational amenities that aren't being properly utilized." That's when her eyes drift toward the stone pathway leading behind our cabin, toward our family's century-old hot spring. "I've done extensive research on this area's natural resources. Some properties have significant recreational assets that could be better managed for community enjoyment rather than exclusive private use." The way she says exclusive private use makes it sound like a crime. Linda's pilot voice gets that controlled calm she used for emergency situations. "Are you talking about our hot spring?" Susan's eyes light up like she had just discovered buried treasure. "Well, yes, a natural geothermal feature like that is really a community resource, don't you think? Something that predates individual property ownership and could provide wonderful recreation opportunities for all our neighbors." I can feel my blood pressure hitting dental emergency levels. "That spring is on our private property, has been in my family for a century. My great-grandparents soaked in that water. My grandchildren splash in it during family visits." Susan's mask comes completely off. "Mr. Donovan, I don't think you fully understand the legal situation you're now in. HOA covenants and community benefit considerations supersede individual preferences. You'll be receiving formal documentation of your obligations very soon." She turns to leave, then stops like she just remembered something important. "Oh, and we'll need to schedule a community assessment of the hot spring area, just to ensure proper safety standards and accessibility compliance." Walks away like she just told us the weather forecast instead of threatening to steal our family legacy. Linda and I stand there watching her drive away in her pristine silver SUV. "Steve," Linda says in her pilot emergency voice, "we've got serious trouble coming."
That night, we called our kids. Michael answers on the first ring. "Dad, how's retirement paradise?" "Son, we've got a situation. Legal situation." Explained the whole Susan Martinez encounter. Michael's investment banking experience includes plenty of property law knowledge. "Dad, she can't do that. Colorado revised statutes require explicit written consent from existing property owners before including them in new HOAs. What she's describing sounds like attempted fraud." Sarah drives up from Denver that very weekend, brings her laptop and teacher-level research skills. "Mom, Dad, I spent 3 hours investigating this Susan Martinez online. You need to see this." Susan's LinkedIn profile tells the whole story. Her law practice specializes in property acquisition consulting and development optimization services. Translation, she helps developers take land from people who don't want to sell. Jake's reaction is pure 24-year-old outrage. She's trying to steal Great-Grandma Rose's hot spring, the place where we had my graduation party, where I learned to swim, where I brought my first girlfriend. Our grandchildren don't understand the legal complexity, but they understand enough to ask Grandma, "Grandma, why does the mean lady want to take our special swimming place?" This was getting personal for the whole family. Monday morning, our neighbor Bob Peterson drives over. 70 years old, retired rancher, been on his land since the 1960s. "Steve, Linda, you folks get any crazy letters about HOAs and community standards?" "You too, Bob?"
Bob spits tobacco juice into the dirt. That Martinez woman came by Friday evening, told me I needed to trim my trees for community aesthetic standards, demanded I remove my old barn because it's an eyesore that impacts property values. Linda brings us coffee. What'd you tell her? Told her exactly where she could stick her community aesthetic standards. Same trees my daddy planted in 1955. Barn's been there before that woman was born. We're still laughing when another neighbor shows up. Jeanette Mills, retired teacher, lives down the valley with her husband. Y'all discussing the crazy HOA lady? Turns out Susan had visited every longtime resident in a 3-mile radius over the weekend, telling different lies to different people. Told Bob his trees and barn violated community standards. Told Janet her vegetable garden was inappropriate agricultural use in residential zoning. Told the Henderson family their kids' playground equipment was not in keeping with mountain aesthetics. Told old Mr. Crawford his antique truck collection was unsightly and needed to be removed. But here's the absolute kicker that made our blood boil. She told everyone about our hot spring. That Donovan family is being completely selfish, Janet quotes Susan saying, keeping that beautiful natural resource all to themselves when it could benefit the entire community. It's not fair to other property owners. Linda's face goes nuclear red. Selfish? We've hosted community barbecues there, kids' birthday parties, 4th of July celebrations. Bob nods vigorously. Been to plenty of gatherings at your place, Steve. Y'all never been anything but generous neighbors. See, here's the truth Susan either didn't know or didn't care about. We do share the spring, regularly. Friends and family gatherings every few weeks, community barbecues where half the valley shows up, pool parties for local kids during summer, neighbors dealing with broken water heaters getting permission to use our facilities. But it's our property, our rules, our invitation. We decide who comes, when they come, and how they behave around a delicate natural feature that needs protection. Susan wanted to turn it into a public swimming pool with strangers trampling through at all hours. Wednesday, the formal demands arrived by certified mail. Linda signs for the thick envelope like she's accepting a bomb threat. Inside, 5 pages of insane legal-sounding demands typed on official HOA letterhead. Install perimeter fencing around entire property to clearly delineate community access corridors to the hot spring. Establish mandatory visiting hours for Pine Ridge Community Geothermal Facility, Tuesday through Sunday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Pay monthly fee of $200 for community amenity maintenance and safety compliance. Remove all private property and no trespassing signs from spring area. Allow HOA-appointed safety inspectors unlimited access to the spring area. Install community bulletin board for hot spring reservation system. Provide basic amenities, changing areas, towel service, first aid station. Fines starting at $100 per day for any non-compliance. Liens against our property if fines exceeded $1,000. Legal action if we continued denying community access to natural resources. The letter concluded with this gem. Failure to comply will result in the HOA exercising its legal authority to ensure community access to natural amenities through appropriate legal channels. Linda reads the whole thing twice. Pilot training made her methodical. Steve, this is insane. Plain and simple. Time for serious research mode. Michael connects us with property lawyers in his Denver network. Sarah starts documenting everything. Copies of all documents, photographs of our property, research on Colorado HOA laws. Jake organizes our evidence digitally. Dad, we need cloud storage for all this. If she's willing to make legal threats, she might try to destroy evidence. I call our insurance agent, our accountant, even our family attorney who handled Grandma Rose's estate. Everyone says the same thing. Susan's demands are legally impossible under Colorado law. But here's what we learned that scared us. Legal doesn't always matter if someone's willing to cause enough trouble, expense, and harassment. Even if we'd eventually win in court, the process could take years and cost tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees. Susan was betting we'd cave to her demands rather than fight. She picked the wrong retirees to mess with. Time to install security cameras. Lots of them. If Susan wanted to escalate this situation, we were going to document every single moment.
Thursday afternoon, November 3rd. Date I'll never forget. And let me know in the comments if you've ever experienced this. Linda's reading on our deck. I'm working on winterizing our garden.
peaceful retirement activities that shouldn't involve legal warfare. Security alert goes off on my phone like a fire alarm. Motion detection at cameras 3, 4, and 5. All positioned around the hot spring area. Check the live feed. Cannot believe what I'm seeing. Susan's leading a full invasion force toward our hot spring. 4 people in matching orange safety vests carrying surveying equipment, orange plastic fencing, metal fence posts, and what looks like a portable generator. Linda, she's here with the whole crew! Grab my phone, start recording. Linda. We storm outside just as they're setting up surveying equipment in our hot spring. This is private property. All of you are trespassing. Susan turns around with that fake professional smile cranked up to maximum wattage. Good afternoon, Mr. and Mrs. Donovan. We're conducting an official community assessment of shared recreational amenities. This is legitimate HOA business authorized by our community covenant agreements. What shared amenities? What covenant agreements? She produces a folder thick with official-looking documents. According to our research and legal consultation, this geothermal feature falls within designated community easement boundaries. Natural water features that predate individual property ownership are subject to community usage rights under Colorado environmental access statutes. The woman is just making up laws now. Then she drops the most legally ignorant statement I've ever heard. This situation falls under eminent domain provisions. The community's right to access natural resources supersedes individual property claims. Linda almost chokes, trying not to laugh. Lady, that's not remotely how eminent domain works. You can't just decide you want something and call it eminent domain. Susan's crew keeps working while we're talking, installing orange plastic fencing around the entire hot spring area. Metal posts driven into our ground. Generator powering some kind of electric auger. They're literally fencing us out of our own property. I'm calling 911 while Linda documents everything with photos and video. Susan laughs when she sees me on the phone. Mr. Donovan, we already coordinated this community assessment with the Routt County Sheriff's Office. They're fully aware of our legal authority to conduct necessary safety evaluations of shared community resources. The absolute audacity of this lie. While I'm on hold with 911, her crew finishes installing the fencing and starts putting up signs. Pine Ridge Community Hot Spring. Hours, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. HOA members only. No private use during community hours. They just turned our family spring into their private club and locked us out. Deputy Rodriguez arrives 25 minutes later. Professional, experienced, not impressed by Susan's legal theater. I show him our property deed, mineral rights documentation, family photos going back to the 1920s, and the security camera footage of the entire trespassing incident. Susan immediately launches into her prepared legal presentation, waving documents around like she's arguing before the Supreme Court. Officer, this is a legitimate community access issue. These property owners are unlawfully excluding community members from shared natural resources. The HOA has full legal authority to ensure proper community access under Colorado Revised Statute Section. She starts rattling off random, legal-sounding numbers. Rodriguez listens patiently, then shuts her down completely. Ma'am, I've been handling property disputes for 15 years. HOAs cannot claim eminent domain over private property. These documents you're showing me don't establish any easement rights. This is private property, clearly marked with clear legal ownership. You and your crew need to remove all your materials and leave this property immediately. Susan's professional mask shatters. This is discrimination against community members. They're hoarding natural resources that rightfully belong to everyone. This is exactly the kind of selfish behavior that HOAs exist to prevent. I'll be contacting the county sheriff's office about this apparent corruption and bias, she shrieks. Rodriguez explains trespassing laws very clearly. Criminal charges if anyone returns without permission. He also notes that installing fencing and signage on someone else's property without permission constitutes vandalism and destruction of property. Susan's crew starts dismantling their illegal installation, but she's not done ranting. This is far from over. I have connections at the county level. Legal precedent clearly established community rights to natural resources. You people will be hearing from my attorneys. Storms off toward her pristine silver SUV, shouting over her shoulder, "Enjoy your selfish little swimming pool while you can." But here's what we didn't know at the time. Susan had been telling her Pine Ridge neighbors that we were the problem, that we were difficult property owners who refused to cooperate with reasonable community standards, that we were hoarding natural resources out of pure selfishness, that the HOA was forced to take legal action because we wouldn't be good neighbors. Some of them actually believed her lies. Friday evening, Linda and I are having dinner on our deck when we see headlights coming up our long driveway. 3 cars, people we don't recognize getting out. Turns out to be Pine Ridge estate owners who bought into Susan's propaganda. Are you the Donovans who won't share the community hot spring? Linda sets down her wine glass. Pilot voice activated. We're the Donovans who own the private hot spring on our private property that our family has maintained for 4 generations. 20-minute conversation that gets heated. These people paid premium prices for their luxury mountain retreats, partly because Susan told them they'd have access to community amenities, including our hot spring. We specifically bought here because of the shared recreational facilities. This is false advertising. We're considering legal action. Community amenities were clearly stated in our property purchase agreements. I finally lose my patience. Folks, I'm sorry you were lied to, but that's between you and whoever sold you property with promises they couldn't deliver. This hot spring has been private family property since 1923. We never agreed to share it with strangers, and we're not starting now. They leave angry, but at least now they know the truth about who's been lying to them. 2 weeks later, Susan proves she's willing to commit actual crimes to get what she wants. November 18th, Tuesday morning, Linda and I drive to Steamboat Springs for grocery shopping and Linda's annual medical exam. Routine retirement activities that should not involve home security emergencies. We're in the Safeway checkout line when my phone starts going insane. 8 security alerts in 30 seconds. Every camera around our property triggering simultaneously. Check the live feeds on my phone. Linda looks over my shoulder.
Susan's silver SUV parked in our driveway like she lives there. Susan herself walking around our property with a toolbox, bolt cutters, and what looks like a crowbar. She's systematically destroying our property's security, cutting locks on our front gate, removing private property signs with the crowbar, prying off the metal address plaque Grandma Rose installed in 1954, cutting the chains on our storage shed, vandalizing our mailbox. Steve, she's completely lost her mind, Linda says, her training keeping her calm in crisis situations. I'm calling 911 while Linda calls Bob Peterson and Janet Mills. This is Steve Donovan on County Road 47. Woman named Susan Martinez is destroying our property right now. Need officers immediately. But we're 30 minutes away. Susan has time to do serious damage. Security cameras capture everything in high-definition detail. Susan breaking into our locked storage shed and removing tools. Using our own tools to dismantle fencing around the hot spring area. Installing brand new signs. Community hot spring. Open to all Pine Ridge residents. Hour 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily. Spray painting our security camera lenses to block recording. Taking a crowbar to fence post we installed to protect the spring's delicate ecosystem. But the absolute craziest part comes at the end. After completing her vandalism spree, Susan goes back to her SUV and retrieves a duffel bag, changes clothes in our driveway,
puts on a bathing suit she brought specifically for this criminal trespassing expedition, gets into our hot spring like she's at a resort, takes selfies with a huge smile, making peace signs and thumbs-up gestures, posts them immediately on social media, finally enjoying a beautiful community amenities at Pine Ridge Mountain Estates, #mountain life, #community spirit, #natural hot spring. This woman documented her own felonies and posted them on Instagram. We're racing home while Linda coordinates with our neighbors. Bob Peterson arrives at our property first. Steve, I can see her from my truck. She's in your hot spring taking pictures like she's on vacation. Janet Mills is right behind him. Linda, this woman has completely lost her mind. She's destroyed half your front gate. By the time we get home, Susan's gone, but the damage is extensive. Destroyed gate locks, $300 replacement. Vandalized property signs, $200 replacement. Damaged fence post around spring, $500 repair. Defaced historical address plaque, irreplaceable family heirloom. Spring area contaminated with sunscreen and body oils, environmental damage. Deputy Rodriguez arrives to assess the crime scene with us. Mr. and Mrs. Donovan, I've never seen such clear documentation of criminal activity. She recorded herself committing multiple felonies. The charges? Criminal trespassing, Class 1 misdemeanor. Criminal mischief, Class 4 felony, damage over $500. Destruction of property, Class 2 misdemeanor. Environmental contamination, Class 3 misdemeanor. Harassment, Class 3 misdemeanor. Rodriguez studies the security footage on his laptop in our kitchen. This isn't just property crime anymore. This is escalating harassment with clear criminal intent. She's going to keep getting worse until we stop her. That evening, Susan gets arrested at her luxury Pine Ridge cabin. Bob Peterson positioned himself where he could record the arrest with his phone. Janet Mills there too, it's her camera. Half the neighborhood shows up to watch. Susan being led away in handcuffs, screaming about police corruption and discrimination against community leaders and violation of HOA authority. Video goes viral on local Facebook groups within hours. From her jail cell, Susan calls the Steamboat Springs newspaper, claims she's being persecuted for standing up for community rights against wealthy property hoarders who think they're above the law. Tells the reporter we're selfish elitists trying to monopolize natural resources that belong to everyone. Says our arrest is evidence of corruption between local law enforcement and privileged property owners. The reporter actually investigates instead of just printing Susan's lies. Calls us for our side of the story. I email him our property deed, family photos, documentation of Susan's harassment campaign, and security footage of her crimes. Linda provides precise timeline of every incident with dates, times, and witnesses. Story that publishes completely destroys Susan's narrative. Denver attorney arrested for hot spring land grab. Local family defends century-old property rights against fraudulent HOA scheme. Story gets picked up by Denver media outlets. Our phones won't stop ringing. Michael calls from his Denver office. Dad, Mom, you're on Channel 9 News. Sarah texts screenshots. You're trending on Colorado Facebook groups. Jake sends TikTok links. Dad, this story is going viral. Time for the nuclear legal option. Jennifer Walsh comes highly recommended by Michael's law firm contacts. Property rights attorney with 25 years experience fighting HOA overreach. Mr. and Mrs. Donovan, this isn't just harassment or property dispute. This is conspiracy, fraud, and what appears to be organized criminal activity. Jennifer's investigation reveals the full scope of Susan's crimes. That quote-unquote county document establishing easement rights? Completely fabricated. Fake letterhead, photocopied official seal, signature from a county official who doesn't exist. HOA formation documents filed with Routt County included forged signatures from us, Bob Peterson, Janet Mills, the Henderson family, and 8 other longtime residents. None of us had ever signed anything, ever seen the documents, ever been contacted about HOA formation. Susan literally forged our names on legal documents filed with the government. That's federal fraud territory. But Jennifer discovers something even more infuriating. Susan's been using our hot spring as a selling point for Pine Ridge estate properties. Real estate listings specifically mention shared community hot spring access as a premium amenity. Property tour videos show Susan leading potential buyers around the community geothermal facility. She collected over $25,000 in special community assessment fees from Pine Ridge residents to fund her legal campaign against us.
told them the money was for securing community access rights to shared natural resources. Translation, she made her neighbors pay for her harassment campaign. Jennifer files a comprehensive federal lawsuit in Denver District Court. Civil rights violations under 42 U.S.C. Section 1983, mail fraud and wire fraud, federal felonies, conspiracy to commit fraud, RICO violations for organized criminal activity, state charges, harassment, stalking, criminal trespass, property destruction, forgery.
Punitive damages for emotional distress and violation of property rights. The evidence package is overwhelming. Security footage of multiple criminal incidents. Social media posts showing Susan using our property without permission. Forged legal documents with handwriting analysis. Financial records of fraudulent fee collection. Witness statements from 12 neighbors. Expert testimony on property law and HOA regulations. News coverage explodes across Colorado. Denver Post. Attorneys alleged million-dollar hot spring fraud scheme leads to federal charges. Colorado Springs Gazette. Denver lawyer accused of forging documents in mountain property scam. 9 News Denver. HOA fraud investigation. How one woman tried to steal a family's century-old hot spring. Colorado Bar Association launches formal ethics investigation based on our complaint. Potential outcomes? Temporary license suspension, permanent disbarment, requirement to pay restitution to victims. Susan's prestigious Denver law firm issues public statement. Ms. Martinez is no longer associated with our practice. We do not condone the alleged behavior described in recent news reports. Translation? They fired her to avoid contamination. Settlement negotiations begin within 2 weeks. Susan's facing federal fraud charges, state criminal charges, disbarment, and complete professional destruction. Her new attorney? Solo practitioner who specializes in criminal defense and works out of a strip mall office. From prestigious downtown law firm to discount legal representation. How the mighty fall fast. Federal court hearing in Denver was absolutely devastating for Susan. Judge Patricia Hendricks spent 2 hours reviewing evidence, security footage, forged documents, victim impact statements from us and our neighbors. Linda and I testify about the harassment, stress, violation of our family legacy, and impact on our retirement dreams. Our 3 kids testify about childhood memories at the spring and watching their parents suffer through Susan's campaign. Michael says, "Your Honor, that hot spring is where my grandparents taught me to swim, where my parents celebrated their anniversary every year, where I proposed to my wife. This woman tried to steal 4 generations of family history." Sarah says, "She terrorized my parents during what should have been the peaceful beginning of their retirement." Jake says, "That spring is sacred to our family. She treated it like a commodity to be exploited." Bob Peterson, Janet Mills, and 6 other neighbors testify about Susan's lies and manipulation. She told each of us different stories, made us believe the Donovans were selfish troublemakers instead of the generous neighbors they've always been. Judge Hendricks was not amused by Susan's conduct. "Ms. Martinez, you are an officer of the court. Your behavior represents not just criminal conduct, but a fundamental betrayal of legal ethics that shocks the conscience of this court." The judgment was beautiful and brutal. $35,000 actual damages for property repair, security upgrades, and legal fees. $100,000 punitive damages, largest award Judge Hendricks had ever issued for property harassment. $75,000 additional payment to Colorado Land Conservation Fund as community service. Permanent restraining order prohibiting Susan from coming within 1,000 feet of our property. Court-ordered dissolution of the fraudulent Pine Ridge HOA with all documents expunged from county records. Mandatory public apology in Steamboat Springs Pilot, Denver Post, and Colorado Bar Association newsletter. But the sweetest part of the judgment? Court-mandated community service. 500 hours working with legitimate land conservation groups to understand actual property rights and environmental protection. Susan has to spend 2 years learning why what she did was so destructive. Federal criminal case proceeds separately with devastating efficiency. U.S. Attorney's Office in Denver takes the case seriously because it involves mail fraud, forged documents sent through the Postal Service, wire fraud, fraudulent HOA formation filed electronically,
conspiracy, coordinated scheme to defraud multiple property owners, civil rights violations, deprivation of property rights under color of law. Susan's federal public defender recommends immediate plea bargain to avoid trial and potential maximum sentences. Final federal plea agreement: 18 months in federal minimum security prison, 3 years supervised probation with travel restrictions, $150,000 in fines and restitution to all victims, prohibition from forming, joining, or advising any HOA for 10 years. Mandatory mental health counseling for narcissistic personality disorder with sociopathic tendencies. State criminal charges resolved simultaneously. Guilty pleas to criminal mischief, harassment, and forgery. 2 additional years state probation concurrent with federal supervision. 300 hours additional community service with habitat restoration projects. Restitution for all property damage and security costs. Colorado Bar Association ethics investigation concludes with maximum sanctions. License suspended for 5 years minimum. $50,000 fine to Bar Association Victim Compensation Fund. Mandatory completion of 100 hours continuing legal education focused on ethics and property law. Public censure published in Colorado legal publications. Requirement to notify all future clients about disciplinary history. Professional reputation? Completely destroyed. Legal career? Over for at least a half-decade. Personal reputation in Colorado legal community? Toxic. Meanwhile, the Pine Ridge neighbors Susan manipulated start learning the truth about her lies. 3 families demand full refunds of their community assessment fees, over $25,000 total. 2 couples file separate lawsuits against Susan for fraud and misrepresentation in property sales. 1 family files complaint with Colorado Real Estate Commission about deceptive sales practices. The luxury development that was supposed to be Susan's perfect mountain kingdom becomes her nightmare. Property values in Pine Ridge estates drop 15% as news of the fraud scandal spreads through Colorado real estate networks. Nobody wants to buy property associated with federal crime investigation. Susan is forced to sell her luxury cabin at massive loss just to pay legal fees and restitution. Real estate agent tells local newspaper, "It's the fastest property value collapse I've seen in 20 years of mountain real estate." But here's the beautiful irony. Our property value increases because of all the positive media coverage about family legacy and property rights protection. Realtors start marketing our area as authentic mountain community where families preserve generational heritage. Tourism Board features our story in promotional materials about Colorado families maintaining century-old traditions. Colorado Historical Society contacts us about potential landmark designation for the hot spring. 3 documentary filmmakers want to tell our story about defending property rights against corporate development schemes. Most importantly, our mountain community grows stronger than ever.
Bob Peterson organizes Victory Celebration Barbecue at our place 2 weeks after Susan's sentencing. 30 families show up. Biggest community gathering in decades. Everyone brings homemade food. Kids playing in our meadow while adults share stories and laugh about Susan's insane legal theories. Linda taking photographs of neighbors' children and grandchildren playing in the same spring where 4 generations of our family found peace. Michael, Sarah, and Jake drive up with their families for the celebration. "Dad, Mom, you didn't just protect our family legacy, you protected the whole community from that predator." Our 2 grandchildren splashing in the spring, completely oblivious to the legal drama, but understanding this place is special and safe again. Bob raises a toast with local craft beer to Steve and Linda Donovan, best neighbors a mountain could ask for, and to standing up to bullies no matter how fancy their law degrees. Janet Mills adds, and to the importance of truth over manipulation, community over control. The Henderson family brings their 3 kids for their first visit to the spring. "We're sorry we ever doubted you folks. Susan had us completely fooled." Evening ends with 20 people soaking in the hot spring under stars, sharing stories and building real community connections, the way mountain neighborhoods are supposed to work. Linda and I added meaningful improvements to the spring area with our legal settlement money. Professional-grade lighting system that doesn't disturb wildlife but allows safe evening use. Comfortable seating areas hand-carved from local deadfall timber by Bob Peterson.
native landscaping designed by Sarah to attract birds and butterflies while protecting the spring's delicate ecosystem. Historical interpretive signs telling the story of 4 generations of family stewardship. Improved accessibility features so elderly neighbors can safely enjoy the spring. Most meaningful addition, memorial plaque honoring Grandma Rose and all the family members who protected this special place for future generations. Sitting here 18 months later, Linda and I can finally laugh about Susan's absolutely insane campaign to steal our century-old family heritage. The lessons we learned are worth sharing with everyone. Document everything when dealing with property disputes. Your smartphone camera and cloud storage are your best legal protection. Susan would have gotten away with her lies if we hadn't recorded every interaction. Know your property rights inside and out. In America, if you legally own property, you control it, period. Don't let anyone intimidate you with fake legal threats or made-up regulations. Professional credentials don't guarantee ethical behavior. Susan used her legal knowledge to commit federal crimes instead of practicing law honestly. Question authority, especially when it doesn't make sense. Community support matters more than expensive lawyers. Our neighbors stood with us when it counted, and that made all the difference in exposing Susan's lies. Never underestimate retired people with time, resources, and righteous anger. Linda's pilot precision and my surgical attention to detail made Susan's criminal life very complicated. The power of truth always wins over manipulation in the end. Susan's elaborate lies collapsed as soon as people learned the real facts. Today, our hot spring remains exactly what it's always been, a private family treasure that connects us to 4 generations of mountain heritage. We share it generously with friends, neighbors, and family, but on our terms, protecting both the environment and the legacy Grandma Rose left us. Susan Martinez? Last we heard, she's working at a discount legal clinic in a suburban strip mall, helping people with traffic tickets and small claims disputes. From federal court litigation to "Have you been injured in an accident?" advertisements. From luxury mountain retreat ownership to renting a studio apartment in Aurora. From prestigious law firm partnership to solo practice in a space between a nail salon and a payday loan store. How the mighty have fallen when they choose crime over ethics. The Colorado mountains are quiet again. Our retirement is peaceful again. Our family legacy is protected for our grandchildren and their children. The natural hot spring continues bubbling up from deep underground, just as it has for thousands of years, maintaining perfect 104 degrees temperature through blizzards and heat waves. Unchanged by human drama, unimpressed by legal threats, enduring through generations of family stewardship. The way it should be, the way it will always be. Have you dealt with HOA Karen trying to steal your property rights? Face down entitled people who think they can take what belongs to your family? Drop those stories in the comments below. Linda and I read every single one, and we love hearing how other people stood up to bullies. Hit that subscribe button for more stories about entitled people getting served justice by ordinary folks who refuse to back down. More retirement drama coming your way that'll make this hot spring legal battle look like a relaxing spa day. Remember the Donovan family motto: know your rights, document everything, never let anyone steal what your family built, and always fight back against people who think rules don't apply to them. Until next time, this is Steve and Linda Donovan signing off from our beautiful, private, century-old family hot spring in the heart of the Colorado Rockies, where the water's always warm, the stars always shine, and entitled people always learn they picked the wrong family to mess with. See you next time.